Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Kamau. I'm really pleased to be doing this podcast as part of the Birkbeck Inspires series. I'll start by talking about our new book, The Organizational Psychology of Mergers and Acquisitions. Our book begins by discussing and classifying different types of mergers and acquisitions and their taxonomy. We then discuss historical trends in mergers and acquisitions, and why employees think of them as scary events involving job losses and other negative outcomes from our systematic review of the evidence. We then discuss what makes employees support or resist a merger or acquisition and what makes them want to quit. We then discuss why employees experiencing mergers and acquisitions think and act in terms of group dynamics of us versus them. We will also discuss why cultural differences in nonverbal language and workplace interactions create problems among employees experiencing mergers and acquisitions. We then discuss good leadership in mergers or acquisitions and how it's all about charisma, dynamics with employees, personality, context, and information processing. We then have a chapter on organizational learning as a common goal in mergers and acquisitions, but consider what psychological processes help or hinder it. And finally, our book discusses occupational health and safety and due diligence for mergers and acquisitions, learning from lawsuits about cancer or cancer-related mortality. So today I'll be focusing on our chapter on the psychobiology of human emotions and why employees experiencing mergers or acquisitions feel fear, anger, and other negative emotions, and a new assessment toolkit based on our systematic review. So I'll read from page 47, where we write that negative emotional states involve reactions within the brain and body that in turn activate behavioral inhibition because wider evidence shows that people avoid stimuli with negative consequences, such as pain or punishment. Drawing on the circumplex theory and other evidence from neuroscience and physiology, we propose that when mergers or acquisitions evoke negative emotions, this involves a set of unpleasant reactions within the brain and body, such as the production of stress hormones, that encourage employees to engage in avoidant behaviors, such as looking for other jobs, going absent from work, missing meetings, and so on. We suggest that employees who feel negative emotions such as shock, anger, or disappointment about a merger or acquisition are also likely to start withdrawing further investment in their current jobs in anticipation of the loss of rewards from that job. So behaviors associated with emotions are often reward-seeking or self-preserving. Therefore, employees might react to mergers or acquisitions in ways that are maladaptive because of feeling overwhelmed by unpleasant physiological and brain-based responses. Negative emotions motivate people to engage in behaviors that help them restore well-being. Therefore, negative emotions could be quite motivating for employees and encouraging them to move away from the stimuli causing unpleasant psychological and brain-based responses. It is therefore unsurprising that staff turnover is a common consequence of mergers or acquisitions. So negative emotions are also associated with counterproductive workplace behaviors such as silence, social withdrawal, and effort withdrawal. Anxiety can make employees avoidant, and fear or feeling threatened can make employees freeze and behave defensively. So frustration and feeling insecure or betrayed can make employees deliberately delay job tasks, search for distractions, and ruminate. Uncertainty can prompt uncollaborative workplace behavior, interpersonal conflict with other co-workers, dips in job satisfaction, and make employees plan to leave an organization. Mistrust is another negative emotion that pervades mergers and acquisitions, and it can threaten the success of the merger or acquisition by hindering the smooth integration of the combining teams. It is important to give employees assurances that reduce or eliminate negative emotions about a merger or acquisition. Those negative emotions being, for example, ambiguity, uncertainty, and feelings of job insecurity, without which they may jump ship by going back on the job market or else psychologically withdraw from work by minimizing job effort, being hostile to colleagues, or unresponsive to communications. Now, although not all employees will respond that way, on average, the evidence shows that those are very likely outcomes. And you can see the references to our citations within our book from page 47. Now, what does this mean in the context of the coronavirus pandemic, where many organizations, for example British Airways, are dealing with huge levels of uncertainty about whether their industries are going to be viable in the future? The question from the point of view of a psychologist is, what is the impact of the uncertainty about the future, the ambiguity about the future on the average employee? And what the evidence tells us from mergers and acquisitions is that staff turnover is a very likely outcome. And so I would predict that there will be high levels of staff leaving or intending to leave their organizations. And from the point of view of the employees themselves and the employers, this can be quite costly psychologically and financially, because recruitment costs a lot of money and training staff up to standard costs a lot of money. So what organizations such as British Airways and others can do at this point is to try and make sure that they minimize and manage negative emotions among employees. Because if they don't, the impact will be that staff will engage in turnover. And if they don't engage in turnover, on average, there's the likelihood that staff will psychologically withdraw from the organization by engaging the behaviors that we've just heard from page 47 in our book. My recommendation is, if you're an organization dealing with uncertainty, for example, if you are within the tourist industry, and that includes aviation, hospitality, and catering, where there is a huge degree of uncertainty caused by the coronavirus pandemic, the first thing to understand and appreciate is that your employees will be anxious and they will be afraid and they will need your reassurances. And the best that you can do is to try and give them an honest but empathic assurance about what's going to happen. Without that, as an organization, you will see high levels of staff turnover, and that will be financially and organizationally costly to you. I hope you've enjoyed this talk, and if you'd like to find out more about Birkbeck University of London, please go to www.bbk.ac.uk. Thank you.